Sing Goddess, The Wrath of the Fonz, Smoke Pit Fairy Tales Part 2. Chapter 9. In the Snow of Far-Off Northern Lands. Fowler, the Fonz, Eclair, Doc Stevens, and I sat around a fire looking at the stars and smoking cigarettes. We sat on rocks we found, or cinder blocks, to keep us out of the mud.
How long are we gonna fucking sit on this goddamn fob?
Fonzie asked, knowing no one had the answer. I don't know, but I'm glad the snow melted. And then I don't have to shit in an ammo can and fucking freeze my ballsack off. Fowler said,
I think it's a good thing. You may think it sucks sitting around here for months on end, but remember who we're fighting. I think we should count our stars the Pentagon didn't decide to go on the offensive and invade Russia in the fucking winter. Even if they did also take Belarus, Poland, Slovakia, and the rest of Ukraine.
Yeah, but it's almost fucking June. I haven't seen Ivan in weeks. We just been going out there and looking for him, but I don't think he's around anymore.
Doc added,
Ivan's fucking everywhere. He's just being quiet.
I heard he's still fucking up Estonia pretty bad.
Eclair added.
Yeah, but this is bullshit. We have more than a fucking regiment here now. We should be moving.
I tapped my tomahawk on the cinder block where I was sitting. When the birds came at the beginning of spring, I had taken a couple of feathers and tied them to the handle right under the head. I thought about the Russian soldier I had buried the axe in back in March. It's gonna suck when we start moving. Ivan digs in pretty well and he fights close. I put the axe away. They've got a lot more balls than Haji did. I pulled my wedding ring off and played with it between my fingers.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Hey, what's written on your ring?
I handed him my ring. He looked at the runes engraved on the band. It says, always faithful, Penelope.
You fucking motard.
He handed me back the golden band.
So did you guys hear what happened to 3-1?
We shook our heads.
Where are they even at?
Well, check out this shit. The fucking Marine Corps sent the battalion and some attachments to the fucking moon for some kind of low-gravity space training. They were supposed to be a rotational force up there because everyone's starting to build shit up in space, and a lot of the Virescens are up there and a shit ton of scientists and tourists and all that shit. Well, they got sent to the moon, and since the war kicked off, the Marine Corps doesn't have the money to bring them back, so they're just up there chilling until the war's over, or we get enough cash to bring them home.
Dude, that sucks. Oh my god.
Yeah, but now First Marines can say they were the first Space Marines. It is kind of neat that Space Marines aren't science fiction anymore.
Have you guys heard about that Spacefold experiment?
Stevens asked.
I heard rumors about that. They're actually doing it now?
Stevens rubbed his jaw.
I was reading about it in a magazine my wife sent me, and they're trying to hurry up and get it working so they can get more materials and shit from the asteroid belt. I think they're trying to have the first go at it in September.
Why would they need to fold space to get to the asteroid belt?
I don't know. Maybe because it turns a year-long thing into a week-long thing.
Okay. How's your wife doing?
She's alright. She's still a little sick, but she's going to have her operation soon. So hopefully she'll be better by the end of the year.
Eclair looked up at the stars, then down at the fire.
Hey, do you think that if you traveled into the future that you'd be there?
What do you mean, dude?
Like, if you could time travel, if you'd still be in the future after you left now?
Well, if you left this, I circled my hands around each other. Timeline? I guess that you wouldn't be in the future when you showed up.
No, as long as you came back eventually, you'd still be in the future in this time.
Well, no, that depends. Are we talking Back to the Future rules, where it's all one timeline, or Terminator rules, where every time you time travel and you actually go into alternate universes?
Wait, what? When in Terminator did it say that those were the rules?
They talk about it in the books, and those are the only rules it could go by. That's why the timeline's so fucked up.
Okay.
Well, what if you didn't have a machine? What if you took some drugs and they altered your reality and shot you to a different part of time? Like clock acid or something.
Or just had the magic power to do it.
This conversation went on for 2 fucking hours before Eclair finished up.
So, we all agree that theoretically, if you went into the future with a machine, or a DeLorean, or a phone booth, that you would be in the future that you traveled to because you use science to move through the space-time continuum. However, if you just magically made a way to the future, you wouldn't be there because you'd have to be a god to do that, and the space-time continuum would actually evolve around you versus you revolving around it.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
On the 1st of June, Lieutenant Colonel Amamnon gathered the battalion and outlined Operation Joker Switch, the course of action against the mighty Russians. The 1st Marine Division was to roll to the Latvian capital, Riga, then board ships, and then on the next day make an amphibious assault on St. Petersburg. I remember wondering what drowning while I was on fire and being shot was going to feel like in the freezing Baltic Sea. Then I wondered where and how I'd wake up. I didn't particularly like the idea of being immortal. I wanted it to wear off, but not if I had to die 1,000 times first. As the 1st Marine Division was to hit the beach, a German Army division reinforced by a Panzer battalion was to strike at the city from the south. An hour before the first wave was to hit the beach, the 82nd Airborne Division and the British Army's 2 Para were to start dropping on the other side of the city. 2-7's objective was a few miles away from the beach into the city, the Ilium Weapons Facility. It was the place where the Russians built their mechs. The plan was brutal. We had to sit through 4 straight hours of a PowerPoint presentation crammed in the bottom floor of a building that could comfortably fit 200 people as the battalion reinforced. I'd always joked about killing myself during lectures like that, but that time I was honestly considering it, except, I knew it wouldn't stick. When the colonel was finally done giving us the plan of attack, he stood in the middle of the room and stared us down. He said,
"Sailors and Marines, you are about to embark upon the great crusade towards which we have striven these many months. The eyes of the world are upon us. The hopes and prayers of freedom-loving people everywhere march with us. In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, we will bring about the destruction of the Russian war machine, the elimination of Putin's tyranny over the oppressed peoples of East Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Our task will not be an easy one. Our enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. The coalition has inflicted upon the Russians great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensives has seriously reduced the strength in air and the capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory, and I have full confidence in your courage and devotion to duty and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking, or my name is an A.G. Amamnon. Hurrah!
The battalion shouted, "Hurrah!" After a few cigarettes and a serious bitch session, I stomped back up to my cot and staged my gear to leave, making sure to pack the captured Russian weapons and ammunition, and dropped a letter to Penelope in the outgoing mailbox. Green girl with the hair so soft. Without you, I'd be forever lost. No thing could ever replace your love, nor a star in the heavens above. Pour your soul into my heart. Enter your light that banished the dark. Nay, even when I'm adult in your scorn, every rose on you has no thorn, like your avocado-flavored skin. Oh dear Penelope, you're my favorite sin. Peacefully not, my body's tortured by the demons of my heart. Every night dream again that I'll be in your arms. Semper Fi until I die. Hank. The morning came with a 04 Reveille. They managed to get us a good breakfast of real steak and eggs. I was happy it wasn't UGRs or MREs, but McMillian said it was cruel to give us a good meal before they sent us off to die. We loaded into trucks and drove north to Riga.
This place kind of reminds me of Ohio.
McMillian yelled over the sound of diesel engines. I turned to look at him. He was staring out at the trees. They were tall and the leaves were starting to fill in. Dude, this place ain't that bad. McMillian looked at me confused.
What?
I'd rather have been in the Waffen-SS during Stalingrad than be in Ohio right now.
Dude, Ohio ain't that bad.
Doc chimed in.
Nah, Ohio's better than getting killed by the Red Army, but I'd still rather sell myself into slavery than ever fucking live there.
McMillian gave us a dirty look.
That's fucked up.
No, Canton is fucked up. Cleveland may as well be Detroit, and there are places in Somalia that are nicer than Crackrin.
So you'd rather be here than back home?
No, I'd rather be at home, but I'd prefer the gulag than anywhere between Pennsylvania and Indiana.
Either way, you can say goodbye to it.
I didn't see the city until we were closing into the port, and we weren't there very long. We were on the pier for less than an hour. We didn't have much with us, just what we were assaulting with. Body armor, weapons, and ammo, and a pack with a few days worth of stripped-down MREs, extra socks, Gore-Tex, and warming layers. I had my captured AK strapped to the side of my pack, and the back pouches filled with extra ammunition. I had a pack of cigarettes stuffed into every crevice I can make, all in their own little Ziploc bag. They split the battalion into companies and loaded us onto different ships. We were to rendezvous on the beach. Fox and Gulf Company shuffled into one of the ships in port. I didn't hear or see the thing's name. Instead of putting us up anywhere, we were led straight to the belly of the ship and staged behind the rows of amphibious assault vehicles and what they called the well deck. We stayed there until we were underway. Then we were loaded into the back of the tracks. The AAVs seemed like they should sit about 10 Marines comfortably, but we had half a platoon in each. It was cramped, dark, and hot. We all either had our elbows in someone's ribs or theirs in ours, or both. I had to flex my thighs almost constantly to keep them from falling asleep. It was a good thing they were pretty much healed by then. I have no clue how long we were back there. I fell asleep a few times, maybe for 10 minutes at a time, or maybe a few hours. When the sardines of Fox Company 27 had been in their can until a day from expiration, the motor flared on. It wasn't deafening, but it drowned out what other little noise there was to hear. Hot, nauseating exhaust flooded the back of the track. After 2 hours of sitting there cramped, sweaty, disorientated, and now with poison gas filling my lungs, we started to move. There was a quick jerk forward, then a yank to the side. Then the engines roared and we raced at full speed. The engine stayed loud, but the feeling of movement was gone. Water started pouring from the seals and the hatches. Not enough to sink us, but more than needed to remove any shred of comfort there was left. At first, the rocking of the ocean waves wasn't terrible. They were almost soothing until we hit what I guessed were higher swells. The AAV started to twist and turn. My guts felt like a blender making a milkshake inside of a Dodge Challenger that was doing donuts on pea gravel during an earthquake. The heat and fumes and shaking got to be too much for me. I emptied my stomach on the floor. I tried to miss my boots, but my head was too fucked to tell. I rested my head back on the bulkhead and was glad that the fumes drowned out the smell of puke, so I had a better chance of not doing it again. The rocking became more violent. The rumbles of explosions started rocking the track, and we heard the pings of bullets hitting the vehicle. There was a large swell, and gravity seemed to dissipate. Everyone started yelling, and we all crashed into the roof. The track was pounded by the waves and flipped back right, sending us flying back towards the floor. Fonzie was yelling something, but the AAV's engine drowned out his voice. The rolling and rocking stopped, and the back of the vehicle dropped, letting in the early morning sunlight. Fonzie, who was closest to the back, screamed, "Get the fuck out!" and led the half platoon out of the track. I jumped out. My right foot hit the water and my left foot hit the sand. I ran through the machine gun fire to the short wall at the end of the beachhead. There were already Marines curled up at the base of the wall, holding onto the rifles, shaking and hoping to God that none of the little Russian hate mail had their name on it. Fonzie looked down over the Marines huddled up behind the wall.
Head count!
The Marines that weren't lying face down on the beach behind us counted off. All 12 of the 17 that had been in the track.
Shit.
Fonzie swore, looking back at the fallen Marines on the beach.
Anyone seen Watson?
He swiveled his head. I looked around. Eclair was taking photos. Doc was pinning an IV into someone. McMillian was patting down Bama and De La Garza. Stevens and Hano were popping up and intermittently firing at Ivan. Greer and Becker were hunkering down. Jets were ripping through the sky, sending their ordnance screaming down into Ivan's head. I could hear the artillery blasting the area between the beaches and the buildings and the screeching of the mech's moving joints. The next wave of AAVs came weaving through the lead rain. One hit the beach behind us. The ramp dropped and the Marines came scurrying out. I didn't see what hit it, but the track exploded into a ball of fire. The Marines who had just departed were no more than 20 feet away. The ones who weren't, swallowed by the flame, were ripped to shreds by shrapnel. I watched one Marine keep charging the wall. Half his face was gone and his arm was a bloody stump. He was screaming, but it wasn't from the pain. I think his brain refused to acknowledge what happened to him and he charged the wall like the soldiers of the Light Brigade. A Daedalus came screaming down from the sky towards the city. It switched from flight to walking mode as it fell towards us. The wings were chewed up and thick black smoke left a trail behind it. The pilot managed to slow it down and he landed between the wall and the buildings firing at us. The Daedalus let out a quick burst of hot lead into the glassless windows and fell over. I peered over the bulkhead. The Daedalus was lying on its side on the ground. The cockpit opened and the pilot slid out of the dirt. Fonzie yelled, "Get off the beach!" and climbed the wall. The Marines behind, his platoon or not, got up and followed the Fonz past the downed mech and into the buildings ahead. The sand crunched under my boots. I hurtled over the fallen Marines from the previous wave and swerved around the barbed wire. Most of it had been trampled by the Daedalus. I saw Fonzie grab the pilot and drag him along to the first row of bullet-ridden, concrete slab Swiss cheese excuses for buildings. We flooded into the first floor via a large hole in the wall. It looked like a hotel lobby. It was painted red with Russian blood from the mech's cannon. I didn't waste any time taking in the view. There was fire coming from the second floor. The establishment was only a few stories tall, and Ivan had rented the rooms for the night.
Who are you guys?
Fonzie demanded of the Marines, not from Fox.
Echo 2-7.
Hold down this floor. We're going up.
Got it.
The Echo Marine whistled to his troops and barked orders at his men. Fonzie pointed his rifle up the stairs and charged up, squad in tow. We systematically kicked down the doors of the second and third floor, but only found body parts. I guess the fire I heard was coming from the adjacent buildings. We moved to the side of the building facing the city on the roof and hunkered down. We took shots at muzzle flashes we saw from nearby structures. Most of the city was still standing in one piece. Fonzie started barking into the radio, looking for the rest of Fox Company.
Hank,
Eclair grabbed my attention. I turned my head and he snapped a photo of me.
welcome to St. Petersburg.
I shook my head.
Yeah, welcome to fucking Stalingrad.
Listen up.
Everyone turned their ear to the Fonz.
The rest of the company's 3 buildings north. Get downstairs, stay on the beachfront, and keep down.
Fonzie slapped the Marines' backs, counting them as they ran down the stairwell of the roof. We filed downstairs, ran through the rubble and up the street to link up with the rest of the company.
Wait out here.
Fonzie told the Marines as he headed into the building to link up with the CO and find the rest of the platoon. A few Marines pointed their barrels down the side of the building in case Ivan decided to come and give us a housewarming present. I looked back at the beach. There were Marines in the water, some still moving in, some floating face down. I looked away. I'd seen enough dead people that it didn't bother me, unless it was a Marine. That pain never dulled. With Fox Company consolidated, we started kicking down the doors of the beach block buildings. No skyscrapers, mostly hotels and restaurants. Glass and bits of concrete littered the streets. Every second of action for at least the next week was done dancing to the Machine Gunner's soundtrack. The company was dispersed through the block. We were in our third building of the assault into St. Petersburg. An intersection decorated with burning cars marked the no man's land border between newly acquired American soil and the remnants of the Soviet Union. Ivan was making us pay in blood for every foot we took. Fox's weapons attachments were on the roof setting up their missiles and heavy machine guns. First platoon was spread throughout the buildings, roughly a squad per floor. Things had been relatively quiet for about 15 minutes, and by that I mean no one was wounded. There was a massive scream from deep inside the city. The war cry of 1,000 vengeful lungs. The spirit of St. Petersburg roared against us. Then there was absolute silence, barring the wind and the ocean. I shot Doc a concerned look. Another wall?
I don't know, man.
That's what it sounds like.
Eclair said as he gripped his rifle wide-eyed. I pulled out the first cigarette I'd had since the fob in Latvia and flicked open my lighter. Fonz looked over at me.
Really?
We're probably all about to die anyway, man.
Stevens said, lighting his.
Fuck it.
Fonzie lit his own. Doc, Eclair, and a few other Marines followed suit. A ways down, a Russian mech climbed to the top of the building. It was too far off to identify with the naked eye. The sun was still on its path to the top of the sky, which made silhouettes of everything east of us. The human wall of screaming Russian soldiers ran down the streets toward us, running over and destroying everything in their path. Fonzie turned back to the Marines on the roof.
You!
He pointed at the Marines beside the Mark 19.
They get in range, you turn them to hamburger.
The Fonz turned to the 50 cal.
Don't cut down anyone further away than the intersection.
The Marines on the heavy machine guns adjusted their weapons.
Everyone else?
The Fonz looked over the Marines on the roof, then winked at Doc and me.
Fix bayonets.
Fonzie flicked his cigarette over the roof. Ivan's ocean splashed its human waves through the buildings. The Marines opened fire. 40mm grenades blew the soldiers into little pieces. Those pieces, though, were the water droplets that bounced off a small rock when a tsunami crashes down on a city. The wall kept coming. I could almost imagine Stalin surfing the wave with his gloriously groomed mustache and matching AK-47. The buildings smoked from the amount of bullets hitting their face. The Russian mech was hopping the rooftops towards us. A couple of missiles from Marines on the other roof screamed at the mech, but missed. A rocket from the second wave hit the mech in the chest and disappeared in a thick cloud of smoke. A few seconds later, it re-emerged. It was close enough to tell what it was. Fonzie started barking into the radio for close air support. Ivan ran over his fallen brothers in the street. Their blood pooled enough to stream into a storm drain. The Russians came right in the front door. We had given up firing in any direction but straight down the sides of the building. I looked up while I was changing my magazine. The Bishop was just a few buildings away. Its gleaming red eye locked onto our rooftop, and the giant iron beast leapt towards us.
Shit!
Everyone leaped and hugged the deck in an effort not to get trampled. The Bishop was only a few yards above us. Crap! I looked up and a Daedalus's foot was crammed into the Bishop's chest. The mechs fell into the building across from us. The stone and mortar collapsed over them. Our guns started again ablaze. The 50 cal didn't join the choir of death.
Fuck, dudes!
Fonzie grabbed the Marines behind the 50 cal's shoulder. The Marine fell over. Blood spilled from the hole where his chest used to be.
Ah, goddammit!
Fonzie yelled,
Hold this position!
like we had a choice, and ran down the stairs. The Marines that had grenades dropped them off the side of the building. Ivan was still trying to force himself in. The Daedalus and the Bishop were wrestling in the rumble. When they tossed and turned, they both stomped on Russian soldiers. The Daedalus had the Bishop on its back. The Bishop reached down for the rifle it dropped when it was kicked. The Daedalus, with "In the Mood" painted on its chest, ripped open the Bishop's cockpit and stuck in its fist. When the robotic hand emerged, it was soaked in red liquid. A squad's worth of Marines busted through the ladder well. Fonzie came up last, carrying Staff Sergeant Watson. The Marines kicked a few grenades into the doorway. Fonzie dropped Watson by the ledge. Fonzie pointed at the bleeding Staff Sergeant, then ran to the 50 cal and pointed it back towards the ladder well. The first few Russians stomped up, and Fonzie cut them in half. Doc ripped open Watson's flak jacket and started shoving gauze into the hole in his side. Watson held on to the ledge of the roof while trying to suppress the pain enough to stay on the radio with command. I leaned over the rooftop and fired a few more rounds at the Russians in the street. There were less of them, at least less of them that didn't take cover. Bang, bang, click. I canted my rifle to the side to check for a jam.
Nope, out of ammo.
I reached for another magazine, then another. I looked down and all my mags were empty.
Fucking great.
I dropped my pack and pulled the AK and ammo I had taken from Ivan in the trenches. I broke down my M4 and stuffed it in the pack and threw it back on. I racked back the bolt on the AK and started firing at the muzzle flashes. I hadn't had a chance to adjust the sights on it, so only God knew where those rounds went.
First platoon!
Watson screamed. We offered him our ears, but only had eyes for Ivan.
We're moving out!
I looked at Watson because I had no idea where the hell he was talking about.
Where the fuck do you plan on taking us?
The Daedalus had put its rifle across the building tops. Doc helped Watson to the bridge. Watson screamed at his platoon.
Let's fucking go!
One by one, the Marines scurried across the rifle until we were all in the other building. When we were over, Ivan made his way up the staircase. The Daedalus picked back up his rifle and leveled the building, Ivan and all. I watched the mech pound the building into nothing. Russian blood glued dirt and debris to In the Mood's hull. The Daedalus scanned the immediate area. When it found nothing worth killing, it boosted itself into the air a few hundred meters, transformed back into a jet, and soared into the sky.
Hey, Fonzie!
What's up, man?
Hey! I gotta get Watson back to the beach and out of here before he bleeds out!
Fonzie looked at Watson. His head was limp and his eyes were shut.
All right, dog, get him out of here. McMillian, Bama, and Becker go with him.
They disappeared off the roof. I watched them come out the back of the building and drag Watson to a track. We were still only on the first block of St. Petersburg.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Episoder. Anyway, it's called In the Snow of Far Off Northern Lands. It's the new one. And we had some people on this one too, didn't we? Well, we didn't have too many people. We had Kat R as Eclair, Joseph Daisy Flowers as Amamnon, Dyllan Dzielski as Stevens, Eric Pickle as Fowler and Watson, Travis Wiedemann as the Fonz, Clayton Sims as McMillian, and Chuck LaVoki as Doc. I would like to thank all my Patreon people, and if you're new here, I put these up on Patreon as I get done with them, and then, schedule them for YouTube later. And then I would also like to thank the War Chest people, which are the first 6 books in this series in an ammo can with stickers and patches and shit. So yeah, thank those people. Thank you people, and then thank you also casual viewer who probably this might be their first video of mine that you watch. Also on that, if you're reading the books, I got the music and the art done. I am doing the final edit right now, and it's fucking tomorrow's Pearl Harbor Day, so you're a good little bit in the future now. So those will be on track to drop in January. I mean, they'll probably be done before that. But, if you release new shit in December, it gets outshadowed by Christmas, and you don't want that. You want to ride the algorithm! All right, anyway, I think this is the last episode before Christmas, so if I'm doing my math right and I don't see you before now and then, you have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next week. All right, here are your bloopers.
When the sardines of Fox Company...
I swear to fucking God, what do you want?
All right. First platoon was spread throughout the buildings, roughly a square per floor. Square per floor? It's a squad trip. After 2 hours of sitting there cramped, sweaty, disorientated, and now the prison. When we were over, Ivan, Fonzie says shit.
All right, I think that's the end of Watson's. Hold on, I can't, there we go.
Oh, that was fucking intense.
Well, check out this shit. The fucking Marine Corps sent the battalion and some attachments to the fucking moon for some kind of low-gravity space training. They were supposed to be a rotational force up there because everyone's starting to build shit up in space, and a lot of these virescents are up there and shit, and fuck.
The Daedalus, with In the Mood painted on its chest, ripped open the
Nah, Ohio's better than getting killed by the Red Army, but I'd still rather sell myself into slavery than ever fucking live there. Sometimes you don't have to act that hard to get a line down. You just feel it, you know? You just feel it. You feel it in your soul.
I pulled my wedding wing. I pulled my wedding wing off. Hey, what's written on your wing? What's written on your wing? The morning came with a oorah. I've just been saying oorah over and over again, and my dog's fucking staring at me like I'm a goddamn idiot. Arr! 277. Oh, excuse me.
Woof. Okay, I'll stop.
Where are you at? Okay. Are we here? Okay. All right. I circled my hands. Oh, don't do that.
Thus ends Fowler.
We will bring about the destruction of the Russian war machine and the son of a bitch.
Instead of putting us up anywhere, we were led straight into the belly of the ship and staged behind the rows of amphibious, you dumb bitch. Use your words, Trip.
To go on one of those offensives. Ah, wait, hold on. I've fucked up your writing. My bad. Look, how do I stop this thing?